come in to begin with ceremony or ritual or to pass on a story. It's custom for us to begin with a song, which is a form of prayer. And we do so in order to alert the gods and the goddesses and the ancestors that we are arriving here in sacred speech, that the ancestors and the spirits of the land may speak through us and stir the remembrances that are ready to come to the surface and take hold in order to steward us to live in a good way. So I'm going to begin, before we begin, in the storytelling of the girl who restored the song of the world. I'm going to share a song with you. It's a form of prayer. And I invite you to listen with your heart. Feel into the song and the vibration so that you're listening. The attentiveness of your listening can be a form of your own prayer, being woven into this. And that which is ready to be stirred in within you, may also rise and greet you. Om to the elk drum. Leo shehayo, Leo shari, shari, we are she, sorori, we are shari, we are shari, sari, we are shalari, we are shari, sare, we are shari, we shara, we are shari, sharai, we are shaya, sari, araro, Om. As we say in the Norse traditions, hail the day, hail the night, hail the gods, and hail the goddesses. May you gift us with eloquent speech, and may the ancestors arrive and speak through us, and steward us to live in a good way. We give thanks. So in the story of the woman, the girl who restored the song of the world, comes from a very old understanding found in indigenous cultures around the world, that we owe it to the earth to restore the missing parts of the song of the earth, and that when we bring back all the songs to become whole, bring wholeness back to the earth, when we bring wholeness of the song lines, then we bring the health of the people back again. And not just the physical health, but the health of our hearts, the health of our souls, the health of being in that spirit of a felt sense of belonging with the sacred. Right? See, this knowledge comes from this understanding that we each come into the world with a song, and that you are that song. That which is calling inside of you to speak and be expressed is your unique song, and the way you help to piece back the song of the world. Because just like every plant, every tree is contributing something to the soil, to the birds, to the animals, to the beauty making of the world, whether you're aware of your own medicine and contribution or not, you are here, part of this beauty making. And so our task is to help remember our song, apprentice ourselves to our song, that it may rise up within us and we can contribute to this greater beauty making. Right? So here's the story. And this story comes, it travels across the salty sea, across many lands. It has traveled all the way from Africa, right, where the original people of all creation is said to have begun. And this is a pygmy story. We're in the thick, lush jungle of Africa. There was a people, and amongst those people was a girl. And one day, she was out foraging for certain root medicines, putting them in her basket, when suddenly she heard a sound that was so beautiful that it made her pause. A sound that she felt here in her heart, that stirred something, and she knew there was a calling there, a calling that needed answered. So she began to trail this beautiful sound through this lush forest and jungle, until once she lifted a big leaf. There she saw this bird. A bird that had the most beautiful sound and song she had ever heard, and had the most marvelous colors she had ever seen. Great patterns on its wings and on its breast and on its crown. And as she saw this bird, there was this felt experience of something stirring within her, this trembling just beneath the surface of her being. There was a knowing there. And then, to her surprise, this bird flew up to her. She put out her arm and it landed softly. And it looked her in the eye. And there was something familiar. There was a knowing there. The bird sang, and as it sang, she felt that remembrance, and the songs came up, and she realized she knew the songs. She knew the songs. She knew the beauty of these colors, of its beautiful plumage. She went back to her village. She picked up first her little basket of roots, brought it back to the village, and she showed this beautiful bird to all the people, and she sang the songs with this bird. And the people gathered around to marvel at this bird with the most beautiful voice and the most marvelous colors and plumage, when suddenly this local magistrate, who wasn't all the people, he was a foreigner, an outsider, who was put in charge to keep control over the people. He comes running, very frantic, and saying, everyone, close your ears, close your eyes. Don't listen to the bird, or it will put a spell on you. All the people got scared. They ran back to their huts, and they closed their doors, and they closed their windows, and they hid inside. And the magistrate looked to the girl, who was very startled now, very scared. What had she done? And the magistrate, very stern, says, you don't want to harm your grandmothers and your grandfathers, do you? Do you want to harm your mother and your father and your brothers and your sisters and all of your people? And she says, no. The magistrate, why are you letting them hear this song? You must hide this song, and I know where to hide it. So the magistrate brought the girl back to her own hut, where they fashioned a cage out of the local trees, create this little cage for this bird. And they put the bird in the cage, and they fashioned a thatched mat made out of the reeds of a local pond, and they put it over that cage. And the magistrate said, now no matter what you do, don't listen to that song. Don't listen. It will cast a spell on you, and you will hurt your mothers and your fathers and your grandfathers and your grandmothers and your brothers and your sisters and all the people. So don't listen. So the girl, very scared, not wanting to cause any harm, she went about her days, listening to her chores, and she would hear that bird, would hear that song, and she would feel that longing to go to it. But she's like, no, I can't cause any trouble. Till after some time, she forgot all about it. It became just a distant dream. Many years later, she was in her hut. She was cleaning out, one of those really deep cleans. And she started going to the dark corners of her hut. And she began to hear this faintest sound. She's like, what is that sound? She listened and like, it's beautiful. There's something there. There's a remembrance. There's a memory there. And she felt again, trembling just beneath the surface of her being, this calling that needed to be answered. So she again, just like that first day in the jungle, she began to trail that sound. She went into the darkest corner of her hut, the corner of forgotten things. And there she found this strange little shape, big thick dust on it. She had to wipe off the dust. She saw the mat, took off the mat, and there in the cage, still alive, was this bird. And she's like, oh my goodness, I thought you were just a dream. I can't believe you are real. So she went and got some water and fed it the water. She went and got some foods and some sacred herbs, and she brought it back. And this young girl, she remembered some of the sacred songs, the medicine songs. So she droned softly and she sang them. And as she sang and she fed the bird came back to life. Like now its plumage had like faded and just, it was not looking very good. But as she sang and fed it, that beautiful plumage came back again with its marvelous colors. The voice became strong again, and its voice beautiful. Now normally when the girl would be out amongst the village fire, she was no longer there at the end of the day. Instead, she was in on her own fire now, sitting there with the bird, and she was listening to the songs, and she was apprenticing herself to the songs. And as she did, these memories started to stir in her, these understandings, this knowledge. And during the day, the people started to notice something was different about this girl. Something was different. She was lighter, she was brighter, she was skipping, and she was singing these songs. And they started to ask, what are these songs you were singing? She's like, oh, no, nothing, I just made them up. You know, she was afraid at first to let anyone know, because she remembered what happened before. But eventually she thought, you know, people need to know, people need to remember. So she brought out her bird. And she's like, look at my bird. Look at its marvelous colors and beautiful plumage and its songs. And they sang together, and the people came around, and then she told the story. And as she told the story, it stirred this memory inside of them. They're like, you know, I think I also had a bird. I also had a bird, and I also was told to hide this bird. And so they went back to their own huts. And they started to scavenge around in the dark corners, the corners of forgotten things. And they found their birds, and they nourished them back to life. They learned their songs. And the magistrate would come out, it's like, no, you can't listen, you're going to be spell cast, enchanted. And the villagers said, no, you are the one casting the spells. You are the one keeping us from our medicine, from our song. So they tied the magistrate up, put him on a raft, and sent him down the Nile. Now in the evening times, people would gather around the fire, and they would share in their songs, share in their stories. People contribute that beauty back into the world again, and they piece back the song of the world. So that is the story of how the young girl brought back the song of the world. I invite you to listen to this story many times and really feel into what are these archetypes and themes in your own life. The dark hut of forgotten things, moving from the collective fire to the inner fire, right? The inner hut, right? Where your song is. We each come into the world of a song, and you are that song. And so what we're feeling into here is this sense of decolonizing our stories. And we are reclaiming our songs. How many of us were told not to be that full expression of ourselves, to just conform, right? Fit that specific role in society, do what is the domesticated and safe and known way, right? And how many of us have become so lost because we become fractured from not following the song that is beckoning to be sung inside of us. And so we are decolonizing from this Christian colonized mindset that is trying to keep us in these little box and these little labels. And instead, we are recognizing our medicine is that pure expression of our heart and our soul, how we contribute back to the beauty making of the world. And right now, it's important that we do so. And as you remember your song, and you step into that beauty making of who you are in the life path, your own story that's being lived through you, we call that your personal myth, you empower others to remember their songs. And that's how we will restore the song of the world, piecing back the missing songs. And when we bring that back, the earth becomes whole and the health of the people is returned. Thank you for listening. And with that, we give thanks to the ancestors who arrived here. We give thanks to the trees and the wind and the sun and all their beauty making. We give thanks to the song carriers who carry these songs and carry these stories, because this is an oral tradition. And may this story land inside of you, that you may carry the story in a good way. Tell the story of where this story came from, that others may be able to allow that story arrive in them and they can carry that story forward. And together, that's how we help stir the remembrances. If you have any questions, my name is Chivi Tokoa. Feel free to email me at learning@treeoftotems.com.